So, hello and welcome to people joining in from different parts of the world. It's a pleasure having you with us this evening once again. We welcome you to the fourth episode of The World is Talking, brought to you by Inspirectuals in association with Rogue Leadership. It is our pleasure at Inspirectuals to have Ms. Brenda Bernstein along with us. And today it's going to be very interesting talk because we will discuss some key points on social intelligence, networking, its connection. And Brenda, she comes with an experience in executive resume writing and coaching the young minds across the world. She has some of the best-selling books under the hat as we speak, and we will discuss all of this and more as we proceed with the talk show. So let me officially introduce Ms. Brenda to you. So, Ms. Brenda Bernstein is the founder and senior editor at the Essay Expert LLC, and she is an in demand speaker, trainer, and consultant. She holds the titles of Certified Executive Resume Writer, and she's also a Certified Master Resume Writer, which comes as a certification to her from Career Director International in the US. Her self published LinkedIn book on how to write a killer LinkedIn profile has commanded the top ranking in Amazon's business writing skills ebook category since July 2012. Brenda is one of the handful of certified master resume writers and certified executive resume writers worldwide. She holds an English degree from the Yale University and a JD from New York University, US, both with honors. Her team of certified award winning writers insert the wow factor into every writing project or any project that they curate for their clients. She is the author of the books How to Write a Killer LinkedIn Profile, How to Write a Stellar Executive Resume, and the big book of job hunting hacks. If you want to know the specialities of Ms. Brenda Bernstein, she is into executive resumes, board resumes, executive cover letters, executive bios, creating superb LinkedIn profiles. She's into LinkedIn training and coaching extensively. She's also involved in preparing college admission essays, training the young minds, and we are really privileged to have her with us this evening. So, Brenda, we want to know, the opening remarks from you as we begin the show.
Well, it's very good to be here. One correction: I did not write the big book of job hacks. That I'm included in it, but I didn't write it. But everything else you said about me is true. So thank you. It's a wonderful introduction, and
pleasure's mine, Brenda.
And one of the things that I also have been studying for many, many years is social and emotional intelligence. So in everything that we do, whether it's an interview or an interview like this, or a job interview, or you're an employee in an organization, or a leader, or wanting to be a leader in an organization, or you're speaking with an audience, you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn. It's important to have social and emotional intelligence if you're going to succeed.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense because today, as we speak, when the pandemic has hit all of us, it's like a tsunami, right? Where a lot of us don't know how to, keep going forward with the right attitude. And more so, this is more relevant for the youth who are in search of new jobs across LinkedIn. And this is not just relevant to a specific geography, this is relevant across geographies as we speak. So
Absolutely.
let us officially begin with our talk show tonight. I will have the very first question for you, Brenda, and that is you come with a very good background of creating killer resumes, as what your book says. And you also are into cover letters, building college admission essays, and you're a great resource in the industry for refining the LinkedIn profiles of people. You managed to do all of this with utmost ease and efficiency. What motivated you to work on these non conventional areas? were you driven by the sole motive of impacting just job hunters when you started, or was it to create an overall impact in the society? We want to know from you, Brenda.
Hmm. It's a good question. When I first started, I was really focused on young people applying to college. That was my first motivation. Is I enjoyed helping young people express themselves and learn more about themselves. Because when I'm supporting someone to write a college admissions essay, it's not just the writing. It's really what is it about them that makes them special, and how do they put their own story together. And I really enjoy helping people to just be the fullest expression of themselves. And I think that that's really my motivation behind everything.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how many people I would end up impacting. I mean, I
Yeah.
kind of did one thing and it led to the next, and it led to the next, and it led to the next. Hi, I just got a hi from Steph. So hi, Steph.
Yes.
A couple people I know are on here today.
Yeah.
Um, but really, what I started to find out is that I started to write blogs as I wrote my book, and I started to write blogs. At first, I was like giving people instructions about things. So this is how you write a good resume, and this is how you write a good LinkedIn profile, and I still give some of that. But what I found was even more satisfying for me was when I would write more about my personal stories and what people could learn from those. And it makes such a difference for me, and not just when people say, "Oh, thank you, Brenda, for the tips about LinkedIn," but thank you, Brenda, because the story you shared really made a difference for me and how I live my life. That's a bigger picture. So that's more about what I'm about and why I like this topic for today.
Okay, so you talked about a lot of things that you were into writing blogs. You write it. You started writing from your heart, and it's when you started, impacting the lives of few people when you realize that this is making a lot of sense, and more people need to be impacted. And I'm sure with your book, and especially I have gone through your best-selling book, which is How to Write a Killer LinkedIn Profile. It is really, I would say, a holy book for people who really want to, revamp their LinkedIn profiles, and that too, especially if they are looking out for jobs. It makes a lot of sense. So I'm really thankful to you because we crossed paths just during this pandemic, and here we are doing this talk show together. So that's the power of networking as we're talking.
It is. It is. And I love that I can have a book that can make a difference for so many people. And, because there are only so many people I can serve individually or that my business can serve individually, but the book gets to, I mean, I don't even know the numbers, but probably, at least tens of thousands of people
Yeah.
who have read my book, and it's made a big difference for them and help them succeed in their job search. So
So just to know from you, Brenda, since you've written this book, even how to, write a stellar resume and also this LinkedIn profile. So how much time did this take for you to write this book? And especially when you got this out released in the market, what was the initial response, and how did you feel about that coming to you as a feedback or response from people?
that book took a long time to write, I'll tell you, Chuck.
That
It
was
took a
years
long
of
time.
experience that you put together.
Yeah, I mean, I started out writing individual blog articles, and eventually I had so many of them that I thought I need to put these into a book. So I wove them all together and put them in some kind of order that made sense for a book. And I organized it by mistakes, because that's a lot of what I wrote in my blog articles as well. And I took actually I was in Austin, Texas, visiting my family for some holiday, and I basically sat there whenever I wasn't with my family, I was working on my book. And when I first wrote the book, it was called LinkedIn Power Tune Up, and it didn't have any images. Um,
Okay.
and but I did manage to get it pretty much together, and after that, I had several rounds of editing on the book. Um, and then finally I had a book, and I would give away the book when people would sign up for my email list.
Yeah.
once I got that how much of a difference the book was making, I thought, okay, maybe I can sell this.
Yeah.
So I changed the name of the book, added images to the book, and this takes a very, very long time, and then sold it on Amazon. So that's kind of the story, and the initial reception was very huge and much more than I expected. That people really loved the book, um, and it became a bestseller. And that's nothing that I ever planned.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just kind of, I don't know, I was at the right place at the right time. And
Yes.
every year I revise the book, and that takes also many, many hours. Thankfully, I have a wonderful assistant,
Yeah.
Jean, who helps
Yeah.
me with that.
Yeah.
But it's still many hours every year to revise the book because LinkedIn changes
Absolutely. And so does the
all the time.
algorithm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just want to know from you, Brenda, since we have a couple of people on this show this evening and from different parts of the world as we speak. So, just to know, when you talk about LinkedIn, right, how do you perceive this platform compared to the other social marketing or social media platforms where people, portray not just their business, it's the personal brand which they are coming up with, and how important does it hold for people when they are looking out for new jobs, or for that matter, if they're just kind of building up the brand for their business? How important is that?
Well, LinkedIn is the place that people go for business connections. People might look on Facebook for more retail type businesses for, for marketing communications. But if people want to find out who you are, they're really going to go to LinkedIn, who you are as a professional. So that's the place where you're going to paint that picture. And a lot of people will meet you on LinkedIn before they meet you in person or on Zoom or any other
Yeah,
way.
true.
So the way that you portray yourself on LinkedIn is what people are going to be expecting. There's this incredible study that just kind of blows me away, where a bunch of students were going to a lecture, and half of them were told that the professor was warm and half of them were told that the professor was cold. And those students all went to the same lecture, and then at the end they were interviewed, and wouldn't you believe, the people who were told ahead of time the professor was warm and wonderful, like that, they came away thinking the professor was warmer. And the people who
Yeah.
were told that the professor was cold, that's how they remembered that professor and experienced that professor. So the way that we present ourselves on LinkedIn is going to inform very heavily what people are expecting and how they experience us when they meet us in other venues.
That's very true, because I have also personally experienced this when people are looking out for new career options, or if they want to build their personal brand or brand of the companies. It's a perfect place where a lot of people are looking up for the right talent. Now the real question is, are you the right candidate for them? Now if you're the right candidate, are you projecting the your brand in a way which could be convincing or impressing people? So that's a moot question which I'm sure a lot of people need to answer. Coming back to the next question for you, Brenda. So how do you perceive social intelligence? If you look at today's generation, what makes you rethink about the concept of social intelligence? And when we talk about social intelligence or emotional intelligence versus networking, how are both of them linked in today's day and age?
Well, first of all, what is social intelligence? So let's
Yeah,
start there. Uh,
yeah,
and there's social intelligence and emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is mostly about learning to know ourselves and our own emotions and how to use our emotions to be more successful and powerful in the world. Um, Social intelligence is not just the capacity to know ourselves, but also the capacity to know others. And the social intelligence is the skill in interpersonal relations. And there's a lot of research saying that self-awareness is very important. And also, once we're self-aware, we can recognize more in other people. But the social awareness and the interpersonal relations is a lot more important. And that really comes from having experiences with people and also learning, through trial and error and successes and failures.
True.
So all of this really creates us as human beings. And, in today's world, I mean, there's so much talk about how young people are on their phones all the time and not having as much interpersonal experience. And that is going to be a challenge, if you're living from your phone and you're not in person. I mean, even Zoom is more in person. Like there's a little bit of social interaction, right, on Zoom. But we need it, and we need it to be good employees, and we need it to be good leaders, and we need it to show it in interviews and in all our interactions, in order to be attractive to a company or a client or a partner, all of it. Social emotional intelligence is at the center.
True. So, in my understanding, Brenda, I would just add to that, people with high social intelligence or high EI, for that matter, we often see that they are the people who can successfully network with people. Now, what are your views on that when we see networking as a critical skill for people to, do well in any industry you take it? Because that's where you need to know a lot about people, their emotions. How can you deal with the situations? How can circumstances change your life, and all of that. So you need to have an understanding first of yourself, and then about the people you are with. So, what are your views on that? On this statement that I just mentioned.
Yeah, and so when you're networking, you are going to show up as, similarly to the way that you're going to show up in a job. So, there was this program, I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it was this big, like, week-long program where lots of information was going out to job seekers. And there was this one person who came to the leader of this program and gave so much enthusiasm and so many compliments and offers to help, and was just so alive that this person got to speak. It was one of thousands or people who were attending this online symposium, right? And this one person stood out and got to speak on the actual program and share, and got to be like highlighted so much. And that person got job offers, after that symposium ended, because people saw him and were attracted. And that's part of social intelligence. And it's being generous, it's helping people out. It's being aware of other people's needs and other people's moods. Leaders, and everyone wants, every employer is attracted, wants people in the company who people are going to like, who are going to give and support other people. And so those are the sorts of traits that you want to show, and in every aspect of your job. If you're dealing with any kind of clients or customers, the clients and customers are going to respond better when you are that giving, listening person that they like. There are stories of, some of these top leaders in organizations, like leaders of airlines, who will walk through an airport or onto an airplane, and everyone is just drawn to them, and like even hugging them because they're so warm and embracing of everyone, from the pilots to uh the the technical workers, and
Yeah.
the attendants and everyone, and just creating that sense of warmth. And that's a unique characteristic, and not all of us are going to have it, in the same way that one of those really, really successful and charismatic and engaging and attractive leaders is going to have it. But we can all have it in our own way.
Yeah. True. So, when I get the conversation, as per some of the remarks that you made, see, so social intelligence is not just about yourself. It's when you are able to critically, or perhaps you are able to know the other person well, is when, so here also comes a sense of inclusivity. So,
Yeah.
when we're talking about diversity, inclusion, and that's ever more relevant now. So all of this is interlinked and
Yes.
plays a critical role when you're taking some major decisions in organizations, or maybe for like when you're talking about HRs or sales teams. So every position or every department has their need of understanding not just their team but also their competitors. So all of this comes not just by having a high social intelligence, but also being able to effectively network within the group of people in your industry. Well, so I mean, really, really some remarkable insights, Brenda.
Yes, one of the things that comes up for me, especially in networking, is a lot of times people will think that networking means asking people for things.
Mhm.
That does not show high social intelligence. Because networking, before you get to the point where you can ask someone to do something for you, you need
Mhm.
to establish the rapport. Maybe you talk about the weather, or when you
True.
talk about something, and get to know a person and see what you can do for the other person before they're going to want to help you. And the other point that you brought up is diversity and inclusion, and social intelligence is so important in that area, and that's an area that is really rising in awareness. And
Absolutely.
right now, I'm not going to say it's rising in importance because it's always been extremely important, but hasn't gotten as much attention as it's getting here, at least in the United States right now. So being aware of how other cultures, so if you're doing international work, then you're very aware of that. How are other cultures going to respond to the way that you're communicating? So if you're
True.
working with different cultures, different backgrounds of all kinds, it's so important to understand where they're coming from and how best to communicate with them.
Absolutely. So, related to the statement, Brenda, we've talked about some industries. We've talked, we've also said that the social intelligence is important not just for individuals but for the society. Now, just want to ask you: is social intelligence critical in every field or industry, regardless of the profile that people are in? And does it really have a bearing on the end results, Brenda? Because when we're talking about output, is it the output which is also getting affected because of the social intelligence and networking? And if yes, how is that happening?
Yes, absolutely it is. So what there was one social intelligence researcher who said that a foreman, the best foreman, the best mechanic, right, is not necessarily going to be the best foreman,
Yeah.
because you need the social intelligence if you're going to lead people, right? So this applies in every single profession. Um, there are stories about leaders who, while they were very competent in many ways, were not successful. People were leaving because they didn't like working with
Yeah.
this person, right? So, and then when those same people, if they're willing to be self-aware and learn how to be more supportive of the people around them, then the whole organization starts changing. People start staying. People start selling more. So that is very, very important, no matter what, what industry you are in. If you're, in construction, right? The
Yeah.
best mechanics might not be a good foreman.
Yeah.
Um, there, there are also studies of C-level executives. So a lot of companies will hire a C-level executive because this person has self-discipline and drive and intellect, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the end, they won't last if they don't have the social skills. And many C-level executives have been fired because they lack those social skills. And if it's a choice between two people with the same level of intellect and drive and competence, and they're choosing who's going to lead our company, they're going to choose the person who has the higher level of social intelligence.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, Brenda, when we're talking about youths in today's time, right, who are, just starting off their journey by entering the corporates, right? Maybe the college graduates, the postgraduates, when they're starting off their initial journey, we often see that if they are not able to, effectively network with a lot of people, they usually give up, right? And we often see that these positions where people have been working or they have started to work, they go vacant, and it's really a difficult time to find the right match again, because people usually give up if they don't see results, right? So how important is, for people to have that patience, and how can they build that social intelligence? Because I see that this is something which is also inherent in people, right? And if people are able to, and just to talk about people who are in marketing for that matter, they would know to effectively network with people. It's there with them. That's given. But when we're talking about people in the other domains, be it finance or operations, where they do not consider networking as that critical an aspect until they come to a situation where it's taking, it's risking their job for them, right? So how important is that to build this skill of networking, considering the pandemic that we have seen, and where with the vaccination drive, I'm sure all of this is changing now, but still there is an importance of creating more jobs across the world, right? So how is that important for the youths to see this going forward?
I think there were a lot of questions in there. I'm trying to piece out what your real question is, and I think you're asking, if you don't feel that you've really developed the social intelligence. Of course, it's important for all the reasons that we've talked about today, uh, and it's possible to develop it. There are training courses. You can actually learn and develop social and emotional intelligence. I've taken many, many courses, mostly through the Wright Foundation in Chicago. And actually, a lot of people from India have,
Yeah.
really taken courses. I think a lot of people have taken various courses, but you know, there are free courses even. The first weekend is free, so you can see if you want to do it.
So on a lighter
So
note, Brenda, have you trained Indian people for social intelligence, or have you made some corrections on their LinkedIn profiles for Indians? Have you had that experience of working with Indians?
a little bit. There's definitely a different culture, than there is here, that I've experienced. I have a writer on my team who's in India.
Oh,
Um,
that's great. That's lovely. Which part of India she is from originally?
oh, you know what? I'm not sure exactly where he's located.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. No problem.
My watch is talking to me. Thinks I'm talking. Do you hear my watch? I'm
No,
sorry.
maybe I missed that.
Good. I'm glad you don't hear it.
I missed that.
But so I've taken this course. It's called the More Life Training, and it's in Chicago. But now, of course, it's on Zoom, and anyone anywhere in the world can take it if you're willing to stay up all night for the hours. But it's called the More Life Training. So it's happening March 19th to 21st is the next one. So if you want to develop skills, look for these things. Maybe do that one or find another one that's on your time zone. Um, but there are definitely ways. So, you want to learn. One of the most important things, and I think this is important for people in India, is to learn how to listen.
Sorry?
Learn how to listen.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because if you're talking and talking and talking and not giving another person a chance to speak, then in many cultures that's going to be experienced like you don't have social intelligence. In some cultures that's the way it is, but that's part of knowing different cultures, and listening without already having your answer formulated. That's a very advanced skill. Are you listening to someone
Yes.
to listen to them, or are you listening to someone in order to get your point in as soon as you possibly can and figure out what you have to say in response? The more you can listen for the sake of listening and understanding the other person, the higher you are going to be in your social intelligence.
Absolutely. So that's a very key remark in this conversation, that effective listening is also important, and that's critical not just in building social intelligence, but also helps you to be an effective communicator. And being a communicator is essential not just to a specific field, but take any industry. Communication is important. So for that, obviously, listening is important, Brenda, as you
Yes,
mentioned.
yes, and it's important in your family and in your other relationships as well.
Absolutely.
Practice with your family. Does your family think that you're listening well to them? Do they like being around you? Are you engaged with your family and making a difference for your family?
Yeah,
That's the place to start. If for most people, we have family around or in our lives and friends. Um,
sure.
and then practice it with your coworkers and your peers, and spend time around people who have good social and emotional intelligence and learn from them. If there's a leader who you really think is amazing and admire and has people just rallying around them, they're doing a good job.
Absolutely. You correct.
This is another cool thing. When you spend time around a leader who has all those qualities and who is interacting with you, you start to mirror those qualities. This is a really, really cool phenomenon. So the more you spend time around someone who's warm and engaging, the more you're going to become that. Your brains will actually wire into each other. And then,
Remarkable, I think.
yeah, and learn
So
what they're doing.
absolutely. So moving ahead, Brenda, they say social intelligence and networking are tried and tested allies. Now, if you look at the power of LinkedIn and other professional networking platforms, social media platforms, if you talk about, it has opened up a new way of doing business, positioning your organization's brand, and more so your personal brand for that matter. Now, what are your thoughts on social intelligence, leading to, much more enhanced results and building a more inclusive society where we know people, where we know, ourselves more clear, because obviously that leads to clarity of thought, and a clarity of thought will obviously lead you to have, some great results too.
Well, I think using LinkedIn, in terms of social intelligence on LinkedIn, one thing you can do is actually talk to people off of LinkedIn. Meeting someone online is meeting someone online. You can add numbers to your network. but do you know the people? So it's also a good way to practice. If you connect with someone on LinkedIn who you think would really be a good, valuable member of your network, see if you can get on a call with them and get to know them. And I do that often. And, sometimes some spark ignites, when I
Yeah.
speak to someone and we're right on the same page and we could talk for hours, and those are the people who I end up referring business to.
Absolutely. So now I would just tell my audience, if you have any questions coming in your mind at this point of time, please feel free to drop in the same and the Q&A box, because we will answer some of your questions, not all of them, but yes, we will try and definitely answer most of your questions towards the end of the show. I would now proceed on with the next question for Brenda. Brenda, what, according to you, are some of the top social intelligence signs that could help an individual go for the extra mile, not just professionally, but also personally, and which helps them maintain good relations with friends and colleagues in the society? So maybe you could just, tell us about some. Uh,
Yeah, that's some of the top signs of being socially intelligent are being warm and being friendly, caring about other people. If you remember someone's name or remember something about the person, um, remember faces, that's a sign of social intelligence. Um, Now we have some tools, right, that we can use, like our CRMs, where we can put notes in about people. And if you put a note about something personal about the person, and then the next time you speak with them, you bring it up. Oh, how was your daughter in that skating, competition?
yeah.
Then they feel really seen. So, and that comes across as social intelligence. But even thinking to do that is social intelligence, like that you care. Um, a sense of humor is social intelligence when it's appropriate. A sense of humor can show a lack of social intelligence if you're telling inappropriate jokes.
True.
Um, but a sense of humor that really engages people, a playfulness, is definitely a sign of social intelligence. And and I think also talking about things, being able to share stories versus just being all business all the time, or like I said earlier, asking people, I've had people just reach out to me and say, "Hi, here's my resume. Do you know any jobs that are available?" And I don't know this person. That's not socially intelligent to go and just ask someone that way. Um, so just to have a facility with language, here everyone's talking about the Super Bowl. So sometimes you need to know sort of what's going on in the world or in your community in order to have social intelligence and be able to discuss things with people.
Absolutely. So, coming from a corporate business background, Brenda, I've worked with a wealth tech organization, and now I'm with an Indian insurance brand. So, what we have seen that, most of the salespeople, in their profiles, they see failure very often. Is because they are not able to understand the other people or what they are asking. Now, especially when you're doing a transactional business, it's more of gonna end up in nowhere, because that's where you're just expecting the client to say a yes without even building a personal connect at the start. So there has to be a good bond initially, and I would want to know your thoughts, Brenda.
Well, you're bringing up a very good point, which is if you're seeing the same results over and over again, then
Nothing
it,
different.
right. There's the whole thing about the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And part of that is an assumption that whatever results you're getting are because of the other person instead of about you. So a big part of social and emotional intelligence is actually looking, oh, so I had a failure. What could I do differently to change that result? The more you look at yourself as the source of your results, the more you can use your failures, because failure in itself is not a bad thing. It can be a great learning opportunity if you take it that way. So that's what I would say is use your failures, change something about yourself. If you're failing more than twice, you know, then look here, because you're the common denominator. It's a different client, it's a different customer, it's a different employer, but you're still there. So there's something that you could improve about yourself to get a better result.
Absolutely. So you just mentioned some really relevant points, and that's where people make a lot of mistake when they're in the professional world, and more so when we're talking about building personal relationships. That's where this plays a critical role. Now, moving on to the next question, Brenda. Uh, can you share some of the tactics that can help one strengthen his social intelligence skills, or the level of social intelligence for that matter?
Yes, I talked about those a little bit before. So do you want me to review some of the things I said?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Just
wonderful. Um,
give it in bullet point.
yeah, so to hit home some of those points, spend time around great leaders and pay attention to how they're leading. What tools are they using? Talk to them, learn from them, find out what works for them. Practice eliciting laughter. We said sense of humor. So the highest performing leaders are the ones who actually get more laughter around them than some mid performing or lower performing leaders. Practice the effective or active listening that we talked about earlier. So listen to people versus thinking, what am I going to say next? Um, keep
Yeah,
learning about yourself and others. Take courses like the More Life training if that's something that interests you. Learn about cultural differences so that you know how to communicate and respond in different cultural environments. And really appreciate the people that are in your life. Develop deep relationships with everyone around you. So those are a few things that you can do. And while it is a quick, 6-point list, when I say it, it's a big undertaking. None of these things are simple things that you would do in a day, right? There's a lot of
Rome was
learning and
not built in
growing.
a day. Yeah,
That,
Rome was not built in a day, Brenda.
that is so true.
Yeah. So I move on to my next question, Brenda. When you look at the pandemic, has it leveled up the sincerity of people towards networking, or still do we see some gaps as a community to address?
I think there are still gaps. I mean, I don't know that the pandemic has changed all that much in terms of networking, and there are a lot more people out there kind of trying to scam the system. I get someone almost every day telling me that they're an expert in lead generation for resume writers. That's not good networking. Um, I do think people are more likely to get on a Zoom call and face to face than they are on a phone call now. I mean, I'm doing more Zoom face to face
Yeah.
meets and greets with people, so in that sense, maybe there's been a little bit of a shift. Um, but we always, some people also have crawled into a hole, with the pandemic and have withdrawn from social situations. So there are definitely some improvements. We're able to meet with people across the world so much more easily. Like everyone is doing it. Meeting, having a birthday celebration and having everyone come, from wherever they are. We used to have our birthday celebrations with the local people,
Yeah.
and now we have them with
Absolutely.
everyone
Now
we
it's
know.
truly global.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these tools they're always going to be gaps. Who are we kidding?
No, absolutely. You're correct, because as we keep progressing, we'll see some more technological changes and people learning new skills, developing, or finding new tools to, talk about revamping their social media platforms and all of that. So that'll keep happening. We have discussed some really pertinent points today in our discussion, Brenda. Now I will move on to the most interesting segment of the talk show. And audience, please have a look and please keep your eyes and ears open as we move on to the rapid fire come lightning round with none other than Brenda Bernstein. So, Brenda, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Here we go.
So I'll ask you a few questions, Brenda, in the typical world is talking style, and you need to keep, answering just, maybe in a word or select, just one out of the two, and just maybe restrict your answer in just one word. So we'll keep progressing as it comes. So moving on
Okay.
to the very first question, Brenda, LinkedIn or Facebook?
No brainer. LinkedIn.
Next one, library or ebook store?
I go for audiobooks.
So none of them, you go with the audiobooks
Audiobooks.
and podcasts, right? Okay, moving on to the next one, Brenda. You need to be giving one word for some of the words that I'll tell you right now. So the first one is time management.
Challenging.
Amazing. Family.
Central.
Super. India.
Colorful.
Yes, and truly diversified. Resumes.
Essential.
Correct. Technological disruption.
Innovative.
Amazing. Work from home.
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
Too much of Zoom happening. And now people have, kind of lost all their patience to come on, online calls. So slowly and steadily, we're seeing people coming out of their homes, working in 30% capacity or 50% capacity in organizations, going alternate days. So yeah, work from home has been a great experience for a lot of people with some real self-reflections people are making during this period. Moving on to the next one, Brenda. What's the best thing that has happened to you in this pandemic?
I moved into my lovely apartment that I live in now
Amazing. And that's in Connecticut?
in Connecticut. Yep.
Okay. So, audience, if you want to find Brenda Bernstein, she is in Connecticut. You can get in touch with her if you're in the United States next time. Moving on to the next one, Brenda, life pre corona or post corona? And you need to add one or two words for why you choose the option.
You know, I choose post corona because I'll be able to see my family again, but I won't have to travel quite as much as I did before. So less time on airplanes, and eventually I'll be able to make
That,
up for the
that's
things
so
that I
sweet.
wasn't able to do.
That's really sweet of you, Brenda. Moving on to the next one. One thing that you have learned from your idol in your life.
Big thing I've learned is how to make a make a fight actually lead to a closer relationship.
How to make a?
A fight, like an argument or a
Yes,
fight, lead to closer relationship.
absolutely.
That
So,
it doesn't
so
have to be a bad thing. Yeah.
yeah, so there's a hidden meaning related to that. But yes, sometimes when we're talking about building a good relation, obviously an argument needs to happen if you want to progress, and you need to find out whether it's working or not working, and maybe just have an opinion of whatever you've done in the past. So it really makes sense. Moving on to the next one, Brenda, heart or mind,
I choose heart.
and why?
Why? Well, because I'm so, one of my personality styles, the Myers-Briggs, I'm an F where it says feeling or thinking. So I value my feelings and my heart beyond anything that, my mind can do. Hopefully they work well together.
Yeah.
But as someone whose emotional intelligence is very important, I have to go with heart.
Yeah, makes sense. Moving on to the next one, Brenda, telephonic calls or face to face meets?
Well, what is Zoom? Is that like, what is that, face to face?
Yes, that's
I choose face to face.
you choose face to face, right? Because visuals add up to the conversation a lot of times. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Moving on to the next one, Brenda, if you could ask God one question, what would that be?
I would like to know if there's life after
Ah, that's something very interesting because a lot of people here in India they have their beliefs that there is still life after death. And
death. Yes.
I was just going through your profile, Brenda, that you are also a yogi, right? And
Yes, I do a lot of yoga.
is
What
that
was
is
that?
that is that correct? So you are also into meditative minds or concentration, having a peace of mind, all of that?
Yes, I wish I could say I meditated more. I do more yoga than I actually sit and meditate, but I do like to go on walks. So,
Okay, that's interesting. So, Brenda, one leader you closely follow.
well, I follow Doctors Bob and Judith Wright, who are, the Wright Foundation, which I mentioned
Sorry, could you
earlier.
repeat?
Doctors Bob and Judith Wright,
Okay,
Wright. Yeah, with the Wright Foundation, I mentioned them earlier. So I've done a lot of work there, and I think they have a lot of great information and trainings in the world about social and emotional intelligence.
amazing. Brenda, one thing that makes you very happy in your life.
Well, yesterday it's very snowy here in Connecticut, and I went on a 3-mile walk in the back. There's this beautiful park in the back of my house, and I went walking in the snow and talking to a friend while walking in the snow, and that made me very
Amazing. I love winters a lot, Brenda, just to add to that. So, I mean,
happy.
whenever I want to visit US, so I was in the US in the year 2014, and I was in Richmond, Virginia, just to share with you. So that was during the fall. But the next time I'm going to be visiting, it's surely going to be during the winters.
Okay, you don't get big winters in India.
Yeah. So, Brenda, one thing that distinguishes a great leader from a good leader.
Well, in addition to what I said earlier about, that just presence and charisma and social intelligence, which is the obvious answer, I would say um, the willingness to take big risks to get big rewards.
Amazing. So having, risks in life is equally important when we're talking about doing well, not just in your business, but also personally, right? So you need to take risks. So there has been a very recent web series which was out, it's an Indian web series based on an Indian scam that took place in 1992, stock market scam, where there's a famous dialogue in I'll just translate that to you in English. So when we say it's in Hindi, it's risk hai to ishq hai. So where there is risk, there is love.
Oh,
So you,
wow, where there's risk, there's love. Interesting.
yeah. So you need to be taking risks in order to, be coming out victorious in maybe in any of the situations that you are, because then you will be, very sure whether that really worked for you or you did not. Because see, if you are taking a risk, definitely you are very sure that either you will make it or that will not happen, right? Or it'll go against you. But you need to be taking a risk. That's a bigger question.
Exactly. I mean, I know you're doing that with this series. Something new for you, right?
Yeah.
And this is a little secret here, but this is actually the first time I've spoken on this particular topic. I've done a lot of podcasts and other things, and I told you, you know what? I want to do a different topic, and that's a little risk for me as well to speak on something well, it's
Share
it's
with
sort of infiltrated. It hasn't been the main topic I've spoken on before. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to share with the audience who are there on this call tonight, so Brenda and I were discussing on the topic for the show, and I left it on to Brenda to decide what do you want to talk about when you're addressing my audience. So she took a topic which is, very relevant, considering the times that we are in, and especially when we are moving on. So there's a question there's come up: where there is risk, there is love. Saint Novak. So you got it correct, Saint Novak. And it was really interesting to bring those insights, Brenda. Moving on to so we've come officially to the end of the second segment of our talk show tonight. Just to share with you, we're officially not done with our talk show because I have the last question for you, Brenda, remaining. So my audience wants to know from you, what are your remarks or thoughts that you want to share with us in light of the mood discussion that we have did tonight? So maybe some of the key takeaways from our session, so that people, when they are done with this talk show, when they are back at their homes with their work, they know really where they want to head. So some key insights.
Hmm. Well, I would say number one is a big part of social intelligence is listening. So really learn to listen. If you need, train yourself, if you need to train yourself to like count, or put a timer so you don't have to count in your head while you're listening to someone else, see what happens if you just like don't say anything for a minute and let someone talk. um, so yes, definitely learning and practicing the active listening is really, really key. Uh, Caring about other people is key to social intelligence. Um, Social intelligence, as we said, is a primary factor in your success in life, like every aspect of your life. And finally, failures are not the end of the world if you use them to learn and grow. So don't be afraid of failures, but also if you fail, don't just keep going the way that you're going, hoping that you're going to succeed. Really, really use those, and the failure, trial and error, and the successes are going to be how you learn and how you develop better and better social intelligence.
Absolutely. So, just to reiterate and to make it clear to my audience, Brenda has talked about the art of listening, and this is relevant to any industry that you are in. And she's also touched upon caring when you are with your friends, colleagues, relatives. You need to start practicing how important it is to care for people. When you're talking about caring for people, it's also important that you care for yourself first, right? So
That
Brenda,
is so
you want
true.
to add to that?
Hmm?
You want to add to that, Brenda?
Oh, it's absolutely true. I mean, if you're not caring for yourself, then you're not going to be much good to the people around you. And that's something that a lot of people kind of fall into, like being in that, oh, I'm taking care of everyone else role, but then they're not really nourishing themselves, and that's not sustainable. That's part of what you learn when you start studying social and emotional intelligence. You really do need to care for number one, and you're gonna, it seems like it, counterintuitive, but the more you care for yourself and put yourself number one, the more you're going to have to give, the better you're going to be at actually giving and supporting the people around you.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you've just also said that social intelligence is a primary factor in your success. So my audience, if you're listening this conversation, I'm sure you've taken back a lot with our conversation. So we have officially come to the end of our talk show, and it was really a very insightful conversation with Brenda Bernstein, talking about networking, about social intelligence, and how important it is, not just in any industry. So Jeff Ohenkirk says thanks Jeff, and thanks audience for joining in. So just to share with all of you, we will be back with a fifth episode of The World is Talking on the 14th of February, which is a Sunday. And we will be joined by Ms. Vinitha Ramtri, who is a leadership and lifestyle coach from London, discussing about creating exponential value in a connected world. Now, this is also very critical when we are talking about inclusivity going ahead. So I really thank all my audience for joining this call, and it was really a pleasure having all of you. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. And thank you so much, Brenda, for your time. We really appreciate it. You
You're
want to
so
say?
welcome. My pleasure. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks a lot, Brenda. Wish you a great day. Wish a great day to my audience, and we'll see you on the 14th of February, which is a Sunday. Thank you. Thanks so much.